Good morning. Today we're going to talk about how to brag for success and how for you to use purposeful self-promotion to talk about your work. So welcome back to the Microdose Diet. It's a pleasure to have you. My name is Peggy Van de Plassche. I'm a former banker and venture capitalist, and I now speak and write about the benefits of alternative medicine, such as microdosing psilocybin or tapping meditation, for professional and personal development. And I created the Microdose Diet, the 90-day plan for success, passion, and happiness. So bragging. So I want to talk about that amazing book called Bragging Rights. So it was published actually last spring, and the author is very interesting. She's a former journalist. She's obviously an author. She's an entrepreneur. And the funny thing is, her name is actually Lisa Bragg. Yes, her last name is Bragg, and the title of her book is Bragging Rights. So it's quite funny. I was super lucky because I met Lisa at her book launch back in May. And I also attended actually this fireside chat that was led by Elizabeth Dipshan. We were in our offices. It's a law firm here in Toronto. And it became very, very quickly clear to me that Lisa really knew her stuff. And she really made bragging or purposeful self-promotion or bread and butter. So the book is really about that. It's grounded in the most extensive research study on bragging and self-promotion that was made internationally with professionals. So you can trust the results. It's not the random study you see usually with students or people in random geography. This is really a scientific study. So the part one of the book focuses on reclaiming your bragging rights, and part two walks you through owning your bragging rights. And I really loved how well constructed this book is. So each chapter really stands on the shoulders of the previous ones. And I really like how Lisa deconstructed the conditioning we all suffer from when it comes to bragging. And most importantly, I really, really loved all the tips she gives, all the techniques to really master purposeful self-promotion. So I could not recommend enough that book. I own both a paper version and also an audio copy. That's how much I love it. So you can find, obviously, in the comments the link to the book, and listen, because you're gonna learn a lot if you obviously want to brag better. So why would you want to brag? Why bragging? Well, it's very simple. If you want to be successful, you have to talk about your success. Unfortunately, you have likely been brainwashed, and some more than others, against sharing your stories of accomplishments, strength, gifts with the rest of the world. And indeed, it has been framed as dangerous to brag, because what if people didn't like it? What if people start criticizing you, judging you, ostracizing you, and you end up all alone? And that is obviously not a very uplifting picture. So you, me, most of us toe the line, sometimes for decades, in order to be good, until you realize, wait a minute, did I get passed again for that opportunity? And usually you've been passed by a person that's very average, but is very skilled at self-promotion. So this is why bragging is so important. You want to kind of break the cycle. And in order to do that, to break the cycle of being afraid of self-promotion, being afraid of bragging, Lisa gave us some pointers. So she really wants us to consider a few things. First, what are these compliments you have received lately? these are gold nuggets. It really gives you what people value and what is worthwhile for you to brag about. She even advised to start a brag book. Some people say a gratitude book. I like a brag book better. I never call it a brag book. What I do is that I write all the things I did correctly that day. You know, all the things where I'm like, oh, you know, great job. So I was not calling it a brag book, but I think it's a great idea. She also wants you to consider what are these old concepts that you hold on to and that are preventing you to shine, and then to reframe these concepts. You probably look at them as things that are the truth, but it's likely not the reality. So definitely look at what are these limiting beliefs, this old concept that prevent you from buying. But also think about how helpful your work is and the real impact it has for others. And when you start really, I know for myself, when I started really thinking about all the people who thank me and really saw great changes, positive changes in their lives, I started thinking, well, maybe I should brag a little bit more, because I do have a positive impact on these people. And the more people listen about what I do, well, the more likely I'm going to be able to help significantly more people. So really, really look at it more from a place of service than for a place of bragging. If you really want something, you want a service, you're always happy someone's going to come and tell you about what they offer. Well, here it's the same thing. Whatever you're doing, that you're doing right, talk about it. And also flip the script. Imagine the person talking is not you, but maybe it's your best friend. So would you think it is okay for her or him to brag in that situation, in your position? The answer is likely to be yes. You think it's uncomfortable for you, but it's okay for others. Well, I think you get the answer to that one. If it's okay for someone else, it's also okay for you. So that's a good way also to reframe. To be more comfortable with self-promotion and bragging, start by bragging to yourself. Think about, you know, all the wins, all the success of the past 5 years, let's say, write them down. And that's the best way to start, you know, the habit of bragging. And the last thing is join others. It's easier to brag and to amplify collective stories. Really think about collaboration versus competition. So the second part of the book, as I mentioned, is really about owning your bragging rights. And the author has infused her bragging rights strategy in this part too. And she really wants you to think about several things in order to be able to align your bragging with your story. So the first thing is, you know, what's your brand, what you stand for, who are you in your professional journey? And in order to figure that out, she asked the following question. So the first one is, what mindset affects your self-promotion style? And once again, do you have a mindset that thinks that self-promotion is bad? Well, if it's the case, that's a belief that you need to get rid of. And I advise tapping meditation to do that. The second question is, who are you? What are your passions? What are your perspectives? What really lights your fire? The third is, who is your audience? That's a very important point. You really need to know who's your audience. And it's not likely to be everyone. I know we always say everyone, but no, you have a core audience. The fourth is, what do you love to talk about? But also, who would love to help you? To think about these people who would be happy to help you talk about what you love. So it's a lot of things that you need to start putting together in order to really, really build an intelligent story of your bragging right. Another way is really to understand when you're not in the room, what do the people who know you say about you? And it's very simple. You can ask some of your friends, some of your colleagues, what's your best qualities? What do you say when you're talking about me in terms of introduction, my superpower, all that stuff? And that's going to help you again craft a very good story. And the last thing again about collaboration and how can people help you get where you want to be faster. So it's not just the people you know or you don't know, but how could they help you? What are you asking them? So she gives across the book tons and tons of tips and techniques. So, and it's a highly skimmable book, like she really did it right because there is a lot of contextualization, there are summaries, there are little exercise. I really, really find it very user-friendly and very valuable. So there are a few insights Lisa gave in the wonderful book, Bragging Rights, that I wanted to mention. So the first thing that I really, really like is when you're self-promoting, go outside your comfort zone, reach for that bold action. Don't always say the same thing. If you always say the same thing, obviously you're not really outside your comfort zone. You don't have to go 100%, 10% is already great, but really stretch yourself. Another thing that she said that I really thought was intelligent and interesting, brag about what you're doing today, not what you did yesterday. And we have a tendency, I know I have a tendency to talk about things I've done last year, 2 years ago, blah, 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 but no one cares. And it's not necessarily my story today. On top of that, what is it that you're doing today and that you want to brag about? Back to knowing your audience. The way she frames it is very funny. You can see the journalist in her. It's like broadcasting is over. You need to narrow your audience. She called it narrowcasting. So really, really focus in communicating with your audience you would have defined in a previous step. One of the interesting things I've seen in the past, but we never do that enough, Google your name. What you find online when it comes to you, does it align with the story you want to tell? The answer might be yes, the answer might be no. The answer might be, well, when you Google yourself, there's nothing that comes up and that's another problem. But, start putting together content with the story you want people to read and think when your name comes up. Another good point is help others to shine. She really focuses a lot, and rightfully so, on collaboration, and it's true. You can really help each other with each other's network and really piggybacking on each other's strength and audience. So really, really be generous with your help with others and help them shine. One of the most favorite quote, and that's the last one that she mentioned, is the new perfect is 75%. And that's very similar to what I used to say, which is done is better than perfect. And I really, really like that. If you want perfection, you're never going to put anything out there. And her last thought was like, what sounds like bragging to one person is just a conversation to another. So keep in mind that for most people, they're just having a conversation. They're not thinking you're bragging. They're just enjoying you telling your story. So I hope you liked that video. So really, really recommend again, Bragging Right, very easy. The name of the author is a brag. So you cannot really miss it. It's on Amazon, it's at Indigo and pretty much everywhere. So thank you so much for listening to the podcast or for viewing that video on YouTube. You can find me as always on Substack, on LinkedIn, and all the usual social media. And please don't hesitate to comment. And I really, really recommend you to look for the book. You're going to learn a lot of super interesting resources for, supporting your own success. So thank you so much. Have a fantastic day. Bye.